And you're little, which helps. You're little, which helps. You.
So, firstly, I apologise. So for those that are listening and watching, we already did this once. And if you know me, you know this is a Tish thing to do, which is I deleted the video, not intentionally, but I did. So although it does mean that I get to chat to you again, it's taken a few times. So I'm so grateful that you're willing to redo this, because it's such an important topic. And I always kind of feel like I'm cheating because I have such an insight into what you do already. And for those of you that understand Jiu-Jitsu, Laurien actually adopted me as her white belt, which was really nice. So in both classes they have these achievements, and that was one of them. I kind of feel like I didn't really give you a choice. I kind of just hung around long enough.
But therefore you were very coachable, and you also about me saying you adapt immediately, so you give me really good feedback when we train, so you're really free with training partners. So
thank you.
So you pay me back.
Okay. I'll take it. Listen, don't worry about the noise because I can cancel that out. Just for those that are listening and watching, like tell them who you are and what brought you here to
So my name is Laurien Zurhake. I come originally from the Netherlands, but I have now a trauma-informed martial arts school, yoga school in Munich with my husband. It's been quite a journey coming to here, but the short version would be that I was a victim of sexual assault when I was a minor. People said, you need to learn to defend yourself, which in retrospect actually means they were putting the onus and the responsibility on me. But still, I always loved martial arts, so I was like, sure, why not? So I started with Jiu-Jitsu. However, the coach was not trauma-informed, didn't understand PTSD or traumatic triggers or panic attacks. So instead of when I would explain things like, hey, this is too much for me, or if I had a traumatic trigger, he would be like, yeah, but then you have to say stop, you have to do something. But he doesn't understand that when you're somewhere else, you can't. You can't, you're somewhere else. So he did re-traumatize me over those months, and then he really pissed me the hell off when I was passing and just mentioned to another, yeah, she's not cut out for Jiu-Jitsu, she will stop. I'm very pig-headed, which is a really good thing. And then when I studied in Oxford for a while, I continued with Jiu-Jitsu there, and at the same time I met my first yoga teacher who happened to be trauma-informed, and that kind of laid a seed. I didn't have, I was still like in the beginner white belt, so I never thought I would be sitting here talking with you. I never thought I would have my own Jiu-Jitsu school, but it was somewhere in my brain. And then as I went back, finished, then my PhD to Munich, there I then met my now husband, because of his 80 kilo, he was the lightest with my 48 kilo, so we were all the time paired up, and very cliche from one to the other, and he already had a background in different martial arts, so he was already teaching at the time. But then, at school, the head coach liked to sample his female students, and also tried with me, and I always said no, which meant that I immediately got bullied, and we were like, fuck this. I was just so done with all of this, especially because when people say to you, go to martial arts, you have to learn to defend yourself, but then vulnerable people go there, which is already so hard on its own, and then those in power that are actually supposed to help you feel safe, to empower you essentially, when they prey on you, I just was like, I'm done with this. So if you want to see change, be the change yourself. So as baby Bluebell said, we opened our trauma-informed martial arts and yoga school. At that point, we didn't really have trauma-informed coaching much. And yeah, as we now have 7 years, in March, 7 years, our own school. Networking is important to us, but also I like to, through up the zone, but we probably will speak about later, I came here for BJJ. It was actually through John. He is somebody who also teaches at camps and has his own Artemis camps in England. And he bought my course, my trauma from course, and actually he really made me interested to go to BJJ to this camp.
So do you think then that nobody, obviously being a female as well, nobody kind of ever thinks that they're going to be in a position where they will have to use such horrible experiences to, you know, later on in life. You would never kind of think, like you said, you never knew you were going to be sat here talking about something that you created.
No, but as martial arts coaches, I mean, if you look at the marketing, so there's what is this discussion that they advertise as self-confidence, self-defense, all these things. So you're actually marketing for vulnerable people. And we also know that statistics, I mean, when you go more in for neighborhoods is higher, but on average, about 70% of people will encounter a traumatic event in their life. Doesn't mean that they will develop into PTSD or depression, but they will all experience. So if you have a class with 10 people, 7, even if you don't have 7 at that time, but at least 2 or 3 will be struggling with something. So I think if you're a coach, whether it's a martial arts course or a teacher in school, you need to know. And I think that the martial arts industry is very outdated with their norms. And I think that this go hard, go home, this kind of nonsense, people don't talk about it. So I think many coaches are like, oh, it's never happened in my school. I'm like, I think it will be. I dare to bet, especially in the established schools, it happens already hundreds of times, but they don't recognize it. And there's also no space for it because it's seen as a taboo still.
Yeah, so it's almost as if they don't know what they're looking for, which is... So for those of, you've already talked about it so much, but for those that really don't understand what trauma-informed coaching actually is, I mean, I do, because I've spent so much time with you, tell our listeners, what is it? Okay, so you're trauma-informed, what does that mean? Like, what do you do?
So it means that I'm not a licensed psychologist or therapist or counselor. That's very important to mention. I mean, some may be both, but if I'm coaching, even if I would be a licensed therapist, it is inappropriate if I would therapy somebody.
Yeah.
So the thing is that you, as a trauma-informed coach, you create a safe environment where people can work hard within their own window of tolerance, which is for everybody a little different. You'll notice it in your own school, with your own people, that some always want a bit more pressure than others, and it's normal. We all have our own window of tolerance. But people with trauma, they can get triggered, some positions may be very challenging, so they may just need some more time there. However, when you constrain good environment, they can also train super hard and intense. So trauma-informed is not coupling. That's really one of the misunderstandings that they think, oh, you just put velvet gloves on and you're like, that's not what it is. It's just that we create an atmosphere where they feel safe. Because we know that we learn also optimally and we heal when we are rest in the chest, when our parasympathetic nervous system is activated. So if they feel unsafe, all these difficult emotions, don't know what to anticipate, then they're not going to learn, not going to heal, and it then won't make sense for them really to come. But this is actually true for everyone, also people that don't have it. It's nice to know what to anticipate. It's nice to kind of feel safe because we dare then to go out of the comfort zone, we dare to do more, we do better. What it also is that if somebody has a panic attack or a traumatic trigger or memory, that we know how to bring them back safely, because there are a few do's and absolute don'ts that we don't think of, and of course to recognize it. And last time I gave this example of my brothers, I think is a very good example that had he not known through my course, he would not have recognized it. So he was a trial class guy, and he was a big, strong guy, did also rugby and everything, sportive. He would think, yeah, easy peasy. Then during sparring, my brothers had mounted him, and he froze. And before, my brother would have been like, come on, just continue, whatever. But this time he says, no, something's off. So instead of doing that, he just stopped, went off of him, and asked whether he was right. Started some reorientation activities, as we call it. And then he said, I just was totally somewhere else, because he remembered that when he was a kid, his brother and a friend of his brother wrapped him up in carpet and they sat on him. And Mount somehow felt the same because he couldn't move. So it triggered something very deep and he didn't think of this in probably 20, 30 years. It's just this, boom, comes up. But if you have kind of this old school, like, hey, come on, I don't want to say like, don't be a pussy or this kind of stuff, you create a completely different environment. So I already pushed away, still come where you will never see him again. And my brother had this also strong and fond approach, which made him feel safe and seen, all was fine. And that's, I think, something that when we do this, we can avoid most of it, but then if something happens, you are prepared. I think safeguarding measures is about prevention, not about trying to kind of extinguish the fire and burning.
Yeah.
And I think that is really what long-term coaching is about. You meet the person where they are at, and that you step by step widen their window of tolerance.
That's amazing. It actually just brought me back to a conversation that I had with somebody about a person that had come to a jiu-jitsu class where we are currently. And they never came back, and it wasn't even now. I didn't think this when we were talking last time, but just then I thought, hang on, maybe they haven't come back because we weren't. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a coach where we are, but I'm obviously the wife of the coach. And so that kind of puts me in a position where, you know, I can stand back and I can see things. And also I've worked at the gym where we're at. But it literally just made me think then, wow, maybe this person actually hasn't come back. And we're just like, oh, they didn't like it. Why? And that sounds crazy because it's my job, actually, outside of this, to think like that. Why do they think that? But in that moment, obviously, I wasn't acting as a sports and exercise psychologist in training. I was myself. So that's really, really fascinating. Now this is something I didn't ask you last time, or maybe I did in my company. What does jiu-jitsu do for you personally as a person, as a female, as a partner? What does it do for you?
So in the beginning, it was definitely about getting more confidence. I am a very confrontational type of person.
I love this.
So if I see a weakness in myself, I don't see that as a negative thing, but when I see it's a weakness, then I need to deal with it. So actually, in retrospect, I realized I've therapy myself a lot, more like exposure therapy, I would say, because at one point, when men of a certain age were like just looking at it, and this is strange, nothing to do with me, that I could not deal with that. So what do? I go to one of the most manly spaces where there's close contact, jiu-jitsu. So hard, and the first 6 months, every time I went, I had to cry. Not because I was necessarily sad, but it just came out because I find that sometimes movement can go into places where speaking therapy cannot. Because the trauma is also stored differently. Like when I go to the rational brain, I cannot get in there where it hurts, where it was over. And so that was my way of dealing with it, but I also know I'm not representative and I also do not document this. So that's also why I'm like, there are better, jiu-jitsu is already hard as it is. Yeah, so I need this additional enemy, so to speak, that you have to fight, or you have to fight. It's another reason why our school is the way it is. But it just evolved then into something that I just really enjoy and love, and what it gives me is that it is like my PhD was about pain behavior, so both physically and mental emotionally, and I kind of transformed it into something practical. So in my little niche in martial arts and yoga, we can, myself, but also other people, teachers can enjoy jiu-jitsu regardless of what they've been through. And that's like what it is for me. It's a very layered thing, so it gives me that what I suffered and went through. You know, I don't necessarily say, oh, you know, it happened for a reason. I'm not like that. But it happened. I can't change it, but I made something beautiful out of it. It's like when you have a scar and it becomes beautiful to do, kind of something like that. Absolutely. That's kind of like how jiu-jitsu is for me. And most time now it's just fun. Like I don't already for years. Like I do not have triggers or these things. That's already a long time ago. It was not done after a while. It was
just different space now, different experiences. So you almost created those experiences, new experiences, like you said previously,
yes,
to kind of replace or at least to kind of have more of an influence than the negative spaces that you were in before. Tell me about you outside of jiu-jitsu. Like, who is the person else, or is this what you do all of the time?
No, I mean, it is my work, but I think I never want to identify my being something because that's just a fixed mindset and it's just you play the game, you will always lose. So jiu-jitsu is what I like, but it's also a job. So I'm also very happy when I don't have to do it, when I don't have to focus on marketing, getting members, checking in on them. So I like to draw and paint before I was that. I like reading, walking the dog. We had this English Springer Spaniel, just a therapy dog in the school, but also one dog. So I just like them. It's just to do my Zumba or mine, that I just dance. I like dancing, this kind of stuff. But I'm not like a social animal in that sense. Like I'm not party going. I don't feel safe there because there's I see too much. It's too overwhelming. So I don't necessarily like crowds. But I do like hanging out here or in a specific context that you camp here. I like that a lot.
That's really interesting because sometimes they go, oh, you do jiu-jitsu, and then they kind of just see the jiu-jitsu or they just see the martial arts. But they don't understand actually you're the second person that I've spoken to, so I don't know where this is going to run in our episodes, but you are currently the second person that I've spoken to that has said this is not just jiu-jitsu. Like, this is not just it.
Like, what I found actually super annoying was when my ACL was torn and I needed surgery and all that, people were saying, oh, you're really gonna get depressed, you're really gonna because you can't move. I was like, fuck off. I have so many other interests. Like, I mean, I'm an ancient historian. I just continued with my Sanskrit studies. I started also off the zone, like the online program for drama and coaching. I put all these things up. There's so many interests. I'm sorry, like jiu-jitsu is fun, but in my humble opinion, when you make that your whole identity, you're missing out.
Yeah, it almost puts you in a position where if something does happen and you do get injured, then yes, of course, it's going to cause problems potentially. But this is why I want to see. This is why I want to hear stories because I want to see the person behind the jiu-jitsu, behind the sport. Okay, so we know what you do. We know why you do it. What I would love for you to do is just kind of expand on the course that you do because I know that shadow of doubt there are people listening thinking, okay, but what is this course? What makes it so great and why do you need it?
Yeah. So I created Off the Zone, that's also how you can find on Instagram, and Off the Zone offers a program, the Thrive Drive method, and it's more than just a program where you learn about trauma and coaching. It's also about personal development. It's also about safeguarding measures, implementing them, maintaining them, seeing what does your school need safeguarding measures, because every school is a little different. It's the core curriculum is 6 weeks. That's just like it's like around about 1.5 to 2 hours of work a week for 6 weeks. If you want to follow it, it's self-paced. It's like a one-time enrollment for lifetime access. And then on top of that, we have twice a year 6 weeks of external speakers. So it can be sports psychologists, clinical psychologists. We also had about eating disorders. We had about transgender. About injuries that can be traumatic for people. I mean, it's like the ACL. So many people don't return to the sport or they don't compete anymore. Did so we have all kinds of topics that all have to do with it. We also have ecological psychology. There's like a lot there, but that is meant not to be go through from cover to cover, but more to see what do I need. Or if you, for instance, a few years later get, say, your first transgender, you're like, oh, what the fuck, what should I do? It's there. So it's a growing directory, and you enroll, you have access to the previous group coaching calls, but also each time you launch, you can just see what topics we have, and you're like, it's relevant to me, come, or just a replay, or not, you can skip it until it is relevant, or just because you find it interesting. So we really keep on growing ourselves, and also when things get debunked, because research never stops, we also change that. So we already have all the things when there was just better information out there.
That's so amazing, and it just, as somebody who loves research, and as somebody who just understands the concept of you're always learning, just to kind of summarize that for those that maybe are listening and kind of like, okay, there's loads of courses out there. This is something that they can literally pay for, and it's like paying for the key into a TARDIS that never stops. Yeah, you've got lifetime access to whatever is in there. And you personally, and I think you might agree with me on this, you can't put a value on something like that, because in a sense of like, is it valuable? Like, for what they're getting, and I haven't seen this yet, because obviously we haven't enrolled in it yet, but for a lifetime access of that kind of support, especially if you own a gym and you've got people coming in like that's literally like, you can't progress in that. You should just do it. In my opinion, I think everybody needs this.
I think whatever your niche is, when you coach or you deal with people, you should know people in general. Exactly, and with this, you also get a 2x one-on-one call, either Alice or me, where we dive deep into you, maybe something personal development as a coach, maybe something like a new school, whatever it is that it is. So we also really want as tailor-made. So you have the core curriculum, which is kind of general, then we have the full coaching course, where you already can, of course, ask questions, and then we have the one-on-one. And that's then until the end of April, it's $399, otherwise it's $499. But if you want to enroll all your coaches, we have like this flat rate for $999, and then it doesn't matter how many coaches you have, you can just also enroll more.
So if somebody's who's quite a good gym that's listening to this, that's it. Like, that's it. If you really, and I mean, this is, if people decide, once you're fine, I'm not going to say you have to do this. But in my opinion, I think if you have the capacity to be able to invest in something like this, you should. I mean, I know already I'm thinking about, what Ben and I want to do in the future and things like that. And for me, it's non-negotiable because of the way that we are and the reason why we're setting up hoping that what we want to do in the future. But especially for the gyms that are already established, maybe they've thought about it, maybe, I don't know, maybe they haven't got access, they don't know about this.
A lot they just don't know, and a lot also, again, comes from these, I think, limiting belief systems where you think that it's go hard or go home. But I'm like, you can train really intense in a safe way. Like, it's not one or the other. Like, you can have both, but you need to create an atmosphere where that's possible. And we teach you how to do it. And also, we don't profit from this. It's just kind of enough to paid speakers, because we pay them. Unlike academia, where you can do everything for free anyways, you have to be happy that we're honored that you're on the conference. We pay the speakers, we pay and also for the platform where it's all hosted, so that we don't So and then we have something left, it will be invested in something else to make something better. So it's not, like, we're not officially like non-profit, it just kind of like goes through our gym, but we don't
That's another amazing thing about you both, is that you kind of, you put back in, you're constantly investing in what you've built, and that, everybody can kind of say you can do that, but to actually see that happening in something that's so important, especially post-COVID, because we've got a lot of things that have happened over COVID, a lot of people that have kind of experienced, unfortunately, more trauma, different kinds of trauma. And some could say we talk about it too much, but actually you can't talk about it too much because there's more of it happening. And I personally believe that it's those that don't understand what trauma really is that are getting annoyed with it. Does that make sense?
I think so too, but I also think that coaches sometimes they like it, they teach how their coaches taught, and they are kind of like complacent. And I think that many coaches are like, oh, I'm good at jiu-jitsu, say, so I open my school. But when you open your school, it means you're an entrepreneur, it means you're a coach, it means you're a marketeer. You have many roles where you are a white belt. But somehow they don't want to invest in it. So they invest all this time into getting the black belt or getting the medals, whatever. That's great. You do need that as well. But when you want to teach people something, when you want to run your business, you also need to progress, get your white belt up to black in those areas as well. And I find that coaching skills, they just think, well, I'm black belt, that's enough. During the scam, for instance, there was this moment I found interesting that one of the coaches said, I am approachable. I may not look like it, but I am approachable. But actually, essentially what this coach said that the students need to accommodate this person. That the students need to meet the coach where they're at. I'm like, no, the coach needs to meet the students where they're at. If you are aware that you don't seem approachable, then fix it. Learn how to become approachable, especially this kind of. When you have your days off or you're somewhere, whatever, after your rest of the bitch face, I don't care. But don't make it their problem to accommodate you. Because if I'm a student in somebody's class, then they have to accommodate me. But if I'm teaching a class, I have to accommodate them. And there are things where we just go into that they never thought of. Wow, that's actually why. Because even if you know everything about drama there is to know, but you still have to speak this rest of the bitch face, people are still not going to come to you. You still don't really necessarily create a safer atmosphere, even though you could.
Yeah, of course.
So that's why we go very deep into also where does it start? Actually, from coaching already starts with your social media, with your website. How do you talk about your gym? Do you tell people what to anticipate? Because coming in the door is so scary. Also, people run from it's scary when you start something new. It always is. But if you tell them what to anticipate, and you make a video where they see what how you get in, where's the reception, or whatever, that they kind of know what is going to happen. It's already so much easier. But this starts not the moment they are on the mat in front of you. It starts already your social media posts, your website. That's where it already starts.
Yeah, it does. It really does, and you can't. Anybody that wants to kind of argue with me about that, let's go. Like, seriously, let's go. I am more than happy to have not a confrontation about that, but, I 100% agree with you on that. It doesn't start when somebody walks through the door, it starts way before.
And then of course afterwards, and you can create a process, a protocol. Okay, so how, when people approach you and that you want to do a trial class, how do you go about it? Do you ask them what their goals are, why are they here? And then also after the trial class, do you talk with them? Do you check in late? What is your process? Because that also that will give you so much insight into whether somebody's going to become a member or not.
I feel like that would be a big thing. I couldn't see Ben doing it.
That's okay. But that's okay.
Never even go there. Like, people will come on the mat and he's just like, yeah, join it. I think that's it.
But that's okay, but everybody has a role to play, especially when you're together, when you are a team of people, because there are just people some people are so gifted they can just talk to anybody. They are great for that. So I'm not saying that you have to be a black belt in everything, but at least you need to be aware where your limitations are.
Absolutely.
Or they may not be fixed, and you can focus. Say selling is difficult for you. When you focus it, you will get better. You may not become the best, but you will get better. But if you know you have somebody who is way better at that and they want to do it, let them do it. Then you focus on something that they don't. It's about balance, but you can only fix problems when you are ready to acknowledge them. It's like the first step in solving anything is first recognizing that there is something.
There's something.
And I've heard also black belt saying to me like, well, of course, I never had something ever happening in my school. And then when I was in the girls' locker, they were like, yeah, well, actually, and then someone more came forward, but they didn't dare say it because that's the thing. Like, usually I say, if no student ever came to you with anything, that's a bad sign.
Yeah, they should be able to feel comfortable with saying
It's even healthy gyms. There will be issues every now and then, but the thing is that you know how to deal with them. That's what it's about. Because also every now and then, there are people that have conflict every now and then. It happens. You're working with people, and people do sometimes clash. But what I find, and some people may be upset that I say this, but there are so many black belts, and they all look big, and all they're so they're all so cool and manly that they don't dare to have an uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, but you're badass, right? So why are you doing it? Why do you they think if I never see the problem, then the problem will just don't see me and will go away. Then like that's not how it works. If there is something, just immediately address it, because then it can't grow, it can't fester, because often it's really about nothing, often it's just a misunderstanding. Yeah. And if you let it fester, it can go boom.
Yeah, I've seen that happen.
And it's tedious sometimes, yes, but when you decide to be a coach and a gym owner, that is just part of it.
It's part of what you should be
taking. It's part of what you take.
No, I have to agree with that. And unfortunately, I do see that I I'm thinking now of places where I have been where it's like, yeah, no, and there's places where I want to go back, just because I'm mature enough in myself to know what I do and don't like. But say I was a 21-year-old girl or whatever, it's totally different. The 21-year-old me were experiencing what I have experienced in the last literally just 8 months, would be petrified. And that is really sad to say, because the only reason why I can deal with what I can deal with in some places that I've been is because of growth in myself.
Yeah, well, Jiu-Jitsu is very interesting because, like, I don't care much about rank, but I know many other schools do. But I do want, just like, for the listeners, bear with me. There are schools where, for instance, a lower belt isn't allowed to ask a higher belt for a role. There are schools where, lineup, is very important. But at the same time, they're confused why white belts don't dare to speak up. Like, or if there's rolling and you have two pairs clashing, then the lower belts have to make space. To me, it all shows that they are less than, but I'm like, are they? Like, I don't know, maybe they are university professors or accountants out and they massively outrank you, but you're not going to bow to them with the men's either. My thing is that when you create an atmosphere where the newbies are lesser than, they're not going to talk to you when shit happens. They will then just leave. They either kind of accept it or just, are like that, kid themselves, maybe silently quit kind of, or they just will never come back. So if you want a culture where people dare to speak out, they need to feel seen, heard, understood, all that, welcomed, regardless of your belt. So when you are like, no, lower belts not allowed to ask higher belts for a role, that's you're already degrading them. If like we don't line up at all, we just have like circle in the end, whatever. Because for me, the belt just tells you where to sign up if you want to compete. It tells you something about that person's potential. Like we have blue belts that are older and we have younger blue belts. They're not the same, even though they are both blue belts. But it's about their individual journey. Later, but we have the psychological approach. We also train differently from a trauma-informed perspective. Maybe we can later also go into that. But like we have this atmosphere where we also encourage them to give feedback, to also say the sparring, what kind of role do you want? Like the example I gave last time, like if I have a heavy period, I'm not going to roll competitively. So if other people want to roll competitively, that's fine, but they should not seek me out. But nobody feels rejected because they're like, yeah, okay. So either they flow roll with me or they don't roll with me that day. So if somebody has a stressful day, an injury, whatever, people just learn to already set boundaries, they are practicing self-autonomy, and that I think is so much more important than what color belt you are wearing, because we want independent, strong, resilient people. At least that's my goal. But through martial arts, I hope that we can help them a little bit in that journey of personal growth. What you're talking about, a 20-year-old you is different than the you now. But if we just can help you practice with your resilience, with knowing who am I, or what do I like, what do I not like. But if you're a white belt, it's kind of category actually, like or you have to line up in the back, you have to move when higher belts roll close to you, even though you were not much moving, they just take up all the space. Look, I understand that they then they don't feel welcome or inclined to speak up. They're not going to. No. So if you want to have people talking to you, you have to really think about your culture and your core values, because that's the same about, so many coaches say it's totally okay to be 10. You want to be 10. And my question is, when was the last time you got 10? Because when you say you get caught and then you start rolling hard with that student, your actions show that tapping is bad. And they will see that. Like with the approach we have with the games we play, I get tapped all the time because we play constraints. Like the training would be like, you won also many battles, even though you're a white belt and I'm a brown belt. But when the constraints are good, you give me a hard time. You can win these battles. And that is like where so you don't feel the need like, oh, I'm so much better. No, you're like, oh, we're learning. We both learn. So since we get tapped all the time like everyone, nobody has this need to show like I'm better than. No, we want to help each other get better, not show that we are better. And then you get a completely different atmosphere. So they will talk. A white belt can give me good feedback. They can. When you let them, it's just often they don't dare. They notice things. They're not stupid. I think they notice things.
They're generally, I say we generally, yeah, you can see things. Because we're learning all the time, and it's the same with the brown belt rolling with the black belt. You know, I suppose it's just different tiers, it's different levels of experience, that's all.
And yet, I learned so much in the kids' class, I learned so much from white belts, you did things that I learned, like, oh, that's cool, I like that. I find that, like, hierarchy, I mean, sometimes in kids' class, one could say it's easier, yeah, sure. But essentially, if you want a culture where people feel safe to speak up, then don't start degrading them from day one.
I love that. I really, really do love that, and I think the people that are listening, you know, most of them, the moment will know better than I, and they know that we don't do politics really, and if we do it by mistake. You know, it's not, I don't think we've ever kind of come across as people that are doing politics in jiu-jitsu ever, because neither of us like it. We hate it. We absolutely hate it. And so we know that when the time comes that we're able to kind of take our own journey through jiu-jitsu, the culture that we create has to be inclusive. I wouldn't cope. I genuinely wouldn't cope. I would go crazy. Laurien, thank you for this. Honestly, I'm so grateful that you took the time out again to chat to me, because it's such an important topic. And guys, I will put the link in when this is uploaded to YouTube. I'll put the link in the comments for you to access. And please get in touch as well. Obviously, I'll put the link to Instagram, everything that Laurien's doing, so that you can see, because it's so important that you even just look at what it is, even if you don't buy the course straight away, or it's not something you want to do, fine. But I would highly recommend looking into it, because it might just be the icing on the cake for you personally, and if you're a coach. So thank you so much. I'm so grateful. Oh, that was really, really